about 5 minutes. Hey there, good morning for me, good evening to you, Steve, and Brian, good evening to you as well.
Good evening. Hello.
Hey.
How are you doing this Thursday?
It's perfect. It's just Thursday, the day before Friday, so it's almost weekend, and I've really been looking forward to this session because it's the first of a kind from me, and I think we will show something new today. So it's perfect.
Always a good thing, and happy to get you on to the Analytic Endeavors YouTube channel as well. Steve and I both are very keen on seeing some of the stuff that you're wanting to present today.
Mm-hmm.
As I was telling Steve, it's we got a 2 out of 3 match today for the LED lights as well too. So almost a perfect set. Yeah. Just out of curiosity, Fred, I'm always curious about tech stuff. What brand is the ones that you have behind you?
Mine is something called Lines. Let me find them.
Is the actual brand called Lines, or is the Lines one of the LED model types that they?
It's one of the LED models. It's called something Lines.
Is it Nanoleaf? At least that's
yeah,
the one
Nanoleaf
that
Line. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Because the Nanoleaf makes the first one they had were these that about 5 years ago. They had the triangles and they had circles, squares, lines. They do a whole bunch of different stuff now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
think they're one of the more common ones.
You can choose and put them together however you want them to. So yeah.
That is kind of
Lines
the fun
also
part.
goes
You get to
with
assemble
squares and triangles and all that stuff. So
yeah, exactly. They all play nicely together.
But the nice ones they have now is they look like wood or something, wooden plates.
Oh yeah, and it's the wood panel is just wood, and then there's it's like an outline where you have it almost like an ambient color behind it. Yeah.
It looks amazing.
It's if you wanted to cover your whole wall with that though, that's a pretty penny.
Yeah.
Even this set me back quite a few hundred just to get the amount to do all these. They're not cheap, but
exactly.
They at least last a while, thankfully.
Yeah.
Need to get some Analytic Endeavors LEDs soon, I think, to promote.
Oh yeah, you should do that. Yeah.
Just get like a die cut of the logo, and then have the little LED outline that goes around it or something, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be fun. There you go.
I tried to make the logo of my former employer with these, but it didn't look well. So now I just have these. I don't know, whatever form it is. So
a splash of color, as one might call it, right? And what's the phrase? It ties the room together.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
But to get started, as this is your first time onto our channel, if you want to give a little background about yourself, kind of what you do, we can use that to kind of get started today.
Sure. My name is Brian. I'm from Denmark. I work with data. I've been working with data since 25 years ago or something. I started by accident, as many of us do, as the accidental DBA on SQL Server. I installed it myself with floppy disks, and that was a whole stack. On SQL Server 7.5 or something, perhaps we will be torn down by the chat now, but around SQL Server 7.5 or something like that in 1998. And then the rest is history. Now I'm a senior principal and also a consultant at a Danish company named Intellishore. We are 100 employees, more or less, and we are part of a bigger organization called Solita here in Europe. I'm a Microsoft Data Platform MVP and has been so for 3 years now, trying to reassign my own MVP. We are in the period now where we have to reapply for it, I guess. So that's me. I am also trying to travel the world speaking about mostly real-time intelligence in Fabric. That's my main topic. I blog about it. I've released a reference guide to the Custo language, the KQL language, called kql.how. That's a website. I have a blog, decode.bi, and yeah, I'm on LinkedIn all over the place. So yeah, that's more or less me trying to help people be better tomorrow.
And I would say out of curiosity, in the last 12 months, from a presenter's perspective, what's been some of the most exciting stuff that's been coming out as part of the Microsoft stack that you've really enjoyed being able to add to some of your talks or presentations?
The GA availability of real-time intelligence at Ignite last year was amazing. It was a huge milestone for Microsoft to release the real-time intelligence to GA. Before that, it was in preview, and we just tried to make things work there. But since the GA level, it has been just working out the box with no fuss. It just works. I also see that the data activator part of Fabric has really been a huge addition to the usage and the automatic part of Fabric, where you can just listen to events happening, and you don't have to sit there watching the report with the spikes going up and down. When a spike happens and you have configured it, you'll get a notification in Teams mail or something else, whatever you need. So I think that is perhaps one of the bigger things in Fabric that I've seen released in the past 12 months.
And the kudos as well to Will Thompson and his team with all the data activator stuff. I had him on last year. I've had him on a few times to talk about some of that stuff. And I think sometime in the near future, should be getting him on to this stream to talk about some other stuff. But I agree that the simplicity that it is now to do any kind of like data stream monitoring is like by leagues a lot easier than it ever has been, especially with all the clicky, draggy, droppy type stuff that's available for it now. And the cost is fairly low. So it just in summary to your point of being able to, in any way, being told when to look at a report rather than having to look at it manually is a huge win. So we had, Power BI goals and metrics, and in a way, this is kind of an enhanced version of that with a bit more real time information being provided. But like you should be able to ignore a report as long as possible until something really good happened or something really bad happened, and for you to go figure out why. It should not be something that you have to open up at 9 a.m. every day just to see how you're doing. You should be told how you're doing.
Exactly. And also it also embraces all the streaming data. So when things goes haywire on your streaming data, you can react to it when you need it. Just not sit there and update the report to get all the insights. So.
Exactly. Yeah. And with that as well, and kind of bringing the focus to the idea of the topic of the day today, what's some of the stuff we'll be getting into for the demos and presentations?
I'll be diving into how to actually get very, very easy started and beginning with the workspace monitoring inside Fabric, because we all have workspaces, and perhaps some has what I tend to call workspace hell. They have a lot of workspaces. They don't know what's happening there. And Fabric has some pretty nice features on getting started with the workspace monitoring, on what's happening, what are the capacity consumption, how are my semantic models working, who is doing what, and do we have anything that we need to take care of. And we will dive into both semantic models, real-time data, event streams, dashboards, Power BI. So we will get a good rundown of Fabric today, I guess.
Definitely very, very useful. It's something personally that I think a lot of people don't necessarily do a great job at. People are very good at setting things up. Monitoring kind of often is an afterthought. So yeah, exactly. Definitely one that I think I'm the same, right? We all do this, right? Don't monitor as well, and things only kind of react to when things start breaking is when we start really looking at. So yeah, very, very useful topic, I think. Something to set up from the get-go.
And it also leverages the workspace administrator, even though you're perhaps not the Fabric administrator or the capacity administrator. But if you are a workspace administrator, then you can get insights to your own workspaces where you work in and you have admin control of, to see what's happening there. Do I need to take care of something? Do I need to call someone if they are every hour they are recalculating the machine learning model and they are just consuming all the capacity? Do I have to react to that or call someone to perhaps scale my capacity, have someone stop doing what they do, perhaps they should work in a different way? Or also in an adoption approach, are people actually using the reports as we expect them to do? And are the semantic models working as they should?
And I think the one little thing that you mentioned there that calls that is with any of these alerts and things, a lot of the intelligence that comes into them and to prevent over alerting is a delayed reaction on some of this stuff. Because if you alert on like instant changes, I think Will Thompson's favorite example was on using the data activator for an airline on gate changes. And I think because like a gate can change like 15, 17, 15, 16, like it can go and do it like every few seconds. And I think they ended up putting we only alert every 5 or 10 minutes, because otherwise it was getting like spammed with all this stuff. And almost every rule that I've done with any client, even with real-time data, I've ended up putting some type of a time delay or like a minimum time of above a threshold before you get an alert on it. Because there's so much transient volatility that needs to be smoothed out to a degree with a lot of this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to call out on that like points.
Yeah, and that is perhaps one of the best examples, because you don't want to get notified for every single change. Because I've in a pre-con I did with one from the product group a few weeks back in Oslo, he set up on my tenant. He set up an email alert with a trigger that triggers every time a thing happened, and that always happened. So within a few seconds, I had thousands and thousands of emails in my inbox saying, "Hey, something happened on your tenant." So please take care of what you're doing with your activator stuff and your streaming data, because it can very, very quickly go very, very bad.
That's why you should always use yourself as a guinea pig to start with. Is like, all right, I'm going to turn this on for a week before I roll it into the company, and let's see how many notifications I get. You don't want your CEO getting 5,000 emails. And I think there was a horror story of Will very early on with the activator still being tested internally, the dog fooding it, and something had happened where I think thousands of emails went out, if not tens of thousands, to like a team on, because I don't know if it was because it was misconfigured or there was still like a bug in the code, but it's one of those horror stories of like, yeah, it can happen. Auto notifications, there is you fat finger one thing and it can easily go wrong.
Yeah. And if you are very unlucky, then that email address will actually be blocked on the blacklist in Microsoft. So
when I'm still to this day, like I think my Havens Consulting tenant is on a few of those like not blacklisted, but it's on the spam list just because there was years ago, like 5 years ago, a misconfiguration with MailChimp and it ended up sending out too many emails because it routes it through mine. So like I still have clients even like on initial emails of like, oh yeah, I have to flag you as okay because your emails just automatically are being identified as spam. So I think my tenant is like perma-flagged just because of some issues long time ago. It takes a long time to get off those lists once you're on there as a potential spammer. Yeah. Digressions aside, whenever you're ready, I can also flip over to the shared screen and we can get started.
Yeah, let's just get started. Sure.
Perfect.
Yes, this is just you already know my name and where I work, but this is also the links to perhaps find me on LinkedIn. I've shortcoded them because LinkedIn is not easy to find. So ak.br/follow, then you'll find me on LinkedIn. kql.how, my reference guide to the coastal language, and my blog decode.bi. And if you want the slides afterwards, when we're done, or you have seen this on YouTube, perhaps you can find them on ak.br/slides. Then you can download the slides in a PDF and then use it to whatever means you need, because they are just open source. And just go ahead. You don't have to reference me at all. It's quite fine.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, we'll also have this down in the description as well. So make sure to go check, and you can download this.
Yes. Enough about me, so let's get started with the agenda. So first of all, let's describe the problem. What problem are we actually trying to solve today with monitoring, and what are we briefly touched upon it, but let's have a dialogue on perhaps also what you see of needs when you work in Fabric and Power BI. And if we have any questions from the chat, please write them, and we will take them as we go along. I like to be interrupted at the worst possible time, because then we will take the questions as they arise in your memory. So
okay, so we can make sure to awkwardly interrupt you. Okay, got it.
Exactly. Yeah, sure. Just go ahead. And then, what kind of solutions do we have in Fabric? What should we do and what can we do? And then, of course, the Fabric way, the easy way. How can we get started? Very, very easy with a few clicks with the mouse, and then we're actually going. And we need to configure something, but I'll run you down through that. And of course, demo time. Let's fly high and see how far away we can go on a live tenant. I can't promise everything will work because it is still somewhat in preview, and there are some templates from Microsoft that you need to tweak a bit. But let's see how far and how high we can fly, actually. But first of all, the problem. What problem are we trying to solve? Many organizations, they ask for, hey, can we monitor our capacity? Can we monitor who is doing what? Can we monitor our semantic models? Can we monitor something on our entire data estate on what is happening, who is using what? and all that kind of stuff. One of those questions is also data quality. Can we monitor our data quality? How good is it? How are people using our data? Can we do it live or near real time? Because real time is a different, I think it's more of a philosophical discussion. Is it really real time? But let's drop that for today. What kind of data are we using? Is it being used as we expect it to? Security. What about, are people trying to breach the security? Do we have people accessing data where they don't have access? Or what's happening around security? Data pipelines. What are we doing on updates, on data processing, data wrangling, notebooks running, all that kind of stuff? And also, what about my capacity? Is my capacity is it adequate in size and in consumption? And am I on those golden, perhaps it's 85% usage on a daily basis, so I still have peak times, and do I still have time to overboost and all that kind of stuff? So how is my capacity actually working and performing? So if we ask these questions today to Fabric administrators and Workspace administrators, they will just go, I don't know, right? So they'll just be, I don't know. So let's see how far we can go with this in a solution. So from a standard monitoring perspective, we like to ask questions. So who's doing what, and how much data are we using, and my capacity, is it actually being used, or have I bought too much? Do I need to downscale or upscale perhaps if I need more? And perhaps most importantly, are my semantic models being used adequately? Is the adoption good enough? Do I have problems with tables, with memory leaks, and all those kind of stuff? But what about you guys? Do you have any other issues that you might see on the usage and monitoring in the Fabric needs, perhaps?
Yes, we have the who is doing what, how much is being used, where's my. I would also be curious like within a month, where are the clusters of consumption in terms of activity? Because
Sure.
things over dates. Because it's, is everything front loaded at the beginning of the month? Is it at the end of the month? Is it fairly even throughout the month? By workspace, by report?
Yeah, sure. So both from a workspace perspective, but also from a capacity perspective, when is my capacity being utilized during the period of a month? Sure.
Exactly.
Okay, so luckily Microsoft has on the workspace level, we have in workspace settings, we have a new item called monitoring. In monitoring, and I stole this actually from Microsoft. It's actually just a Microsoft database collecting all the metrics and logs and things that you can listen to inside Fabric. So it can be capacity consumption, it can be notebook executions, it could be event house query logs, it could be usage of your semantic models, all those kind of things that on a daily basis is just being used, and those telemetries and those logs are now being made available to us. We can't access the raw data, but we can access a predefined data set given to us, and then we can do with that whatever we need to do. The build-up of this workspace monitoring is actually, we get an event stream. This is the logo for an event stream. We get an event stream that picks up all the signals coming from Microsoft logging mechanisms and pipes them into an event house, into a KQL database. This database is also given to us, and that database contains a lot of objects. I'll show you those in just a minute when we dive into the actual solution here. So we have an event stream and we have an event house with a KQL database underneath, and data is given to us. But what about afterwards? Because data is not very valuable until we can begin to analyze it, right? So you both do Power BI. Perhaps you have just tried to work with the real-time dashboards, but we have two options. We can either build our reports ourselves because the data is now available to us. It's live because it's from a KQL database. We don't have to process anything. It's just coming to us live. Or we can build a real-time dashboard. Or we can, and I think, was it 2 weeks ago or perhaps 3 weeks ago, I can't remember, but Microsoft released a package set of standardized, ready-to-go reports on both Power BI and real-time dashboards to begin to get started with your workspace monitoring. So when you click the menu option in Fabric, these things are deployed to the event stream and the KQL database. And you choose and you deploy whatever you need from both Power BI and real-time dashboards. There's a lot of discussion on when to choose Power BI versus real-time dashboards. I will say if you need insights within a second when it happens on your workspace, choose a real-time dashboard, because that one you can refresh like forever. Whenever you need it, it'll just show you the live data. The Power BI dashboard is, report is, it is what it is in Power BI, and you all know the limitations there. Unless you have changed the default settings in Power BI, you will have a minimum refresh rate of 30 seconds. You can change that down to 1 second in an automatic refresh, but then you will also consume a lot of capacity based on that. So it's up to you to choose your own poison. Today I have brought both of them, so we can test them out. A shortcode here, if you want to download them, ak.bi/fabmon, fabric monitoring, fabmon, then you'll get directly to the Microsoft GitHub page to download these 2 artifacts, and then you can get going. The official image drawing or marketing thing that Microsoft does looks like this. It's more or less just what I showed you. We have the workspace items that are being logged, monitoring. All those logging events are being tracked and handed over into a monitoring event house. And then it's up to you to do the insights. What do you need? Do you need the real-time dashboard, or do you need the Power BI? And then you choose what you want. There's also perhaps, I'm still being surprised that not many people know this, the Fabric Capacity Monitoring app. The Fabric Capacity Metrics app, I think it's called. When I mentioned that to my clients, they're just like, oh, there's a standard app to monitor my entire capacity. Yes, there is. Please use it. And if you don't use it, please go ahead, because it'll just give you out of the box a lot of insights on your capacity from a high level, from a Fabric tenant level. What is your capacity doing? How's it doing? How's the rundown, as you said, Reed? How's the rundown through your month? How is it being utilized? Do I have overspending? Do I have boosting and smoothing? And what about my backend processes? And also on a workspace level, who's accessing what? So we have 2 options. We have the Fabric Capacity Metrics app, which gives us the tenant level access and view on the capacity and the workspaces. And then we have, for each workspace administrator, we can start this workspace monitoring for them to leverage their insights and their needs for analytics part. If you want to read more, I think I skipped 2 slides there, didn't I? Something happened, right?
I saw a flash of something.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, yeah, demo time, sorry. Let's dive in and see what we have and what we can do about things inside Fabric. Do you have any questions in the chat while I change my screen?
Just have one from Amy here, and you might get to this a little bit later, but the essentially how to store data for more than a 30-day view, because that's the maximum window. I don't know.
How do we store data for more than just 30-day view? Where?
Or how?
Yeah, but how do we store data for more than just a 30-day view? Is that in the workspace monitoring, or is that
for the built-in monitoring tools? How would you store data for more than a 30-day view?
Okay, for the built-in monitoring, I would start out with the workspace monitoring that I just have, and then if you need more than 30 days, you can actually alter the underlying functions to stop dropping the data when it goes old. I can try to show you that because it's actually just an update policy on each of the tables.
Because I know you can build a custom report and use the API to basically make your own model. I didn't actually realize you could update the auto-generated reports to do that. I just knew of you can basically export the data and then track it yourself. Yeah,
you have the dirty way, just make a copy of the data in a different KQL database. That's one option. But you can also, if you are beefy enough and dare to change it, you can change the it's the retention policy in the database. You can just change that to more than 30 days if you need it. But
Nice.
let's
Yeah,
see
I
if
didn't
we can
realize
find
that.
it in the demo.
Okay. Yeah. Well, once we get to the demos, then that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So here I have a workspace. It's just called real-time demo, and I have different artifacts here. I have an event stream, just streaming in some demo data sets. I have the Fabric workspace monitoring. I'll dive into that in just a minute. I have a lakehouse. I have a pipeline. This is also given to me from the these two items are given to me when I click the menu, and I'll dive into those later on. And then I have a semantic model. This has 60 million rows in a fact table and some million rows in a dimension table. And this is built out of this event house and this lake house. I also have a Power BI report based on this semantic model. So how do we actually get started? So in the workspace settings, if we want to load, we have this new monitoring thing. I've enabled this. When you enable it, it takes a few minutes and then it spins up actually these. Let me see if I can get them into one window. It's there. I get these two. These. Let's say it's actually only 3 items, but let's say 4. I get a real-time dashboard. Sorry, I don't get that deployed. That's my bad. Sorry, I'll try again. This one, these 3. I get the monitoring event house with a corresponding monitoring KQL database underneath the hood, because I can't have an event house without a KQL database. And I also get an event stream. The event stream is more or less locked for editing because it uses a proprietary connection string to read the backend log from Microsoft. So you can't edit that. Let me try to open it so you can see it. It's always a joker when you open an event stream. You never know how long it takes to open it. This source from the event stream, you can't edit it. It's just there. It reads the data from the Fabric monitoring, from the telemetry that is happening inside your Fabric workspace. But you can see an example data dump of what's happening, and then it just stores that data in a Fabric monitoring KQL database. I can't edit this event stream. It's locked for editing because underneath the hood it has some access tokens and things going on behind the scenes to access the data from Microsoft. But I also get this monitoring event house. This monitoring event house contains right now not a lot of data, but the underlying database contains actually a few objects. Let me see if I can expand this a bit. Should I zoom in? Is this better, perhaps? I get some tables out of the box, and I also get some functions. These functions are actually updating the underlying tables here because whatever we are doing, whatever is happening in the event stream is actually being stored in the raw logs table. The raw logs table is being emptied every time a row enters because it is being distributed to other tables, either the semantic model logs, where I have data right here, or other of the tables based on these functions. All of these functions are attached between the, now I can't scroll, there, between the raw logs and the other tables containing log data. They are attached as an update policy. So every time a row enters the raw logs, they are filtered and executed based on these functions. And the function is just, if you are from the SQL, it's just a store procedure. Something that happens with a trigger when a row enters the raw logs. These functions are executed based on their configurations, and the data from the raw logs is distributed and unfolded and data wrangled, and JSON objects are being put into columns, all those kinds of stuff. And then those rows are being loaded to the underlying tables. So from this, we can see that the raw logs is always empty because each time a row enters, it is being loaded to other tables and deleted. But we should be able to change the underlying, we can't, sorry. The data policies here, if I were to change the retention period, I would go into the data policies and change that retention period. I can't. So the question we just got, we need to load the data to another KQL database. We can do that with an event stream or a pipeline or something, and then load the data to another KQL database and then have more than 30 days if we need so. But you can't load it from the raw logs because those are deleted instantly. So you need to load it from the other tables that we have here, different tables. Okay. We don't have any materialized views because we don't have enough data to have materialized views and no shortcuts. But we do have a data stream, and that is the event stream I just opened that stores data in the raw logs table that we have now. So if I zoom out just a tiny bit, we can see from the semantic model logs that I now have data, and I have data that the progress report has ended, and the data report begins, and execution metrics, and a data set, and who does it at what time, what workspace, the workspace name, the capacity, the correlation, all those kind of stuff. And we also have some JSON objects here. These JSON objects are not easy. If you are in a SQL world, those would be a nightmare to unfold, right? Because you need to use all those cross joins and JSON objects and all those kind of stuff. In real-time intelligence, it's very, very easy. We have one command to unfold everything. It's called bag unpack, and then in parentheses your column, and then it does the magic with a JSON object, and then you have all the columns in a beautiful table format. So a cheat code there in one line of code. But all these kind of information is right now not of value to me because I can't analyze them right now. It's just a table. So from Microsoft, we get these ready to download items. We get a report called Fabric Workspace Monitoring, and we get a real-time dashboard in a JSON object. Let me start with the Fabric. Let me just process this because I can't figure out from the documentation if the data is live or not in Power BI because it has just been released and the documentation is not that good yet. So if I open the Power BI report, there's a disclaimer, hey, blah, 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 that's fine. But the first page is actually a workspace overview. It is quite cramped right now. But from the top, I see a workspace summary of how many active users. This is only me because that's my tenant, my private tenant. There are some operations, there are some semantic models, the workspace name, all those kind of stuff. But in the middle, no, I can't zoom for some reason. Sorry, there we go. In the middle part, I have the metrics of my semantic models. What is happening? Who is doing what? And what source applications am I using? What about the ingestion service? Average execution duration by source application. So, how long are the application waiting for the data to be released to be processed in a visual manner? All kinds of insights from my semantic models, what's happening. So now I can begin to analyze what's happening with my semantic models. Do I have any failed operations, and what are they? I have 0 failed because hopefully I have 0 failed. And I can also see how long are people waiting to get the data. This is quite high. These numbers are quite high because with intent, I created a very, very big semantic model with 60 million rows, and I also have another semantic model with 600 million rows, just to see what kind of peaks do I get in these reports. There are also event house metrics. As I'm not using my event house right now, this is empty, but when I begin to use it, it will begin to show my metrics over here. On the details around the semantic models, I can begin to dive into what is happening in my semantic models, how many do I have, and also how much CPU time, it should be a box, how much CPU time am I using, what's the maximum CPU time, all those kind of stuff. Peak memory, different measures, then you can begin to analyze all your semantic models. What you can also see is the users of each semantic model. Now I only have my own user, but I can, if I just unfold this, and they're also a part of service. I did something today, and I did something a few days ago. I'll zoom in so you can see it. I did this on the Fabric Workspace Monitoring, and I have this. It's very high hierarchy. There you go. Let me zoom in here. This is me on my tenant. This is today. And I did a few hours ago, I did something on my semantic model. I read some data, and this is all the objects that it reads and all the processes that it does. And now I can begin to analyze what is happening. How many requests am I using? What's the duration? Do I have wait times on my report that is too long? Perhaps this memory usage is too high to my workspace. Should I analyze that? Should I call someone, have them, should we optimize this semantic model or something? I'd really try to make large numbers here so we can see something. But this is not a guideline on how much is too much for you. This is just to show you we have data, and then you need to analyze what is too much of memory mashup, peak memory, something. I also have, if I unfold, if I collapse myself, I also have things happening from the Power BI service level. The Power BI service things are not much, but they're there. This is the underlying things that goes on when you don't do anything, because the Power BI needs to be refreshed, and that is being handled by the Power BI service. It can also be the backend monitoring of in the direct lake semantic models. There are this I can't remember. Help me here, people. If there's a measure of temperature of your data in the direct lake connection, something. Those temperature measures and metrics needs to be updated. This is also the backend service handling that. It doesn't consume much. It's just there for your usage. We also have on executions, what are people using on my reports? How long are they waiting? Heat maps on things are going on, reading data, progress data, execute SQL, tabular refresh, all that kind of stuff. What is happening? What are people doing on my semantic models? And if I had a really big workspace with a lot of users, this heat map would be way more beautiful with way more colors. And then you can also see during time of day, when are people using it? This is hour by day. When are people using it? Do we have peak times? Perhaps 8 o'clock in the morning when people meet up. Do they all use the reports that they used to? And then perhaps also around lunch or something, are they reusing the report? That's a typical pattern. So during the day, we can see what are people doing.
And I can think, I mean, with that too, is like, I can also I find a great argument for that on trying to figure out if real-time data is needed, because and I'm sure, Brian, you've seen this plenty with clients. Like, you come up to a client like, oh yeah, how often do you want your data? We'd love real-time. Like,
yeah, exactly.
So what do you mean by real-time? Like, do you actually, like, because I can build it to have to the second real-time if the data is available.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot more of a pipeline process to build that and considerations. But like something like this is, all right, how about I'll publish the report. Let's just schedule it for like daily, and let's just wait a month and see how often people look at this report. And if you can see like, oh no, yes, there is active usage throughout the day, real time would make sense. But otherwise, like, oh no, it's looked at like twice a day. It's like 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. You just need a couple of refreshes that are timely. You need near real time for that. But this could be a great way to help determine and maybe save some cost on building a real time pipeline, depending on the frequency of people taking a look at the reports.
Exactly, I totally agree, because yes, when people to me say real time, they just ask for one refresh a day. So you really need to ask them, what do you mean about real time?
Exactly.
I just need fresh data every day. Okay, is that 8 o'clock in the morning, or is that every half an hour? I don't know. Tell me, right? And then I totally agree, because also many organizations say, well, we want it all the time. Well, as you say, Reed, then you're only accessing them 9 and 3 p.m. So let's just update it twice a day.
And even current throughout the day is still just like once an hour. Like, it's very rarely is there anybody who has a business critical decision that needs to be made off of data that was from a minute ago versus 30 or 60 minutes ago.
Yeah, and also depends on the business you are doing, because if you are maintaining a windmill, you would very much like to have the alert of a bearing going haywire before the wing falls off, right? You need to know that within the second, whereas And also, if you're maintaining VMs in Azure, you need to know if the CPU usage peaks at 99%. You need to know that now, not in an hour, because you need to do something now on that, because in an hour that will be gone. So it depends on the business you are doing.
Exactly. And just before you go back, like I will throw a question up here from Amy. So probably an elementary question, but the executing users also includes users that are granted visibility of the report via the app, right?
Yes.
Not just users that have direct access to the workspace.
Yes, it is all users reading the data from your semantic model. It can be outside the workspace, but it is users accessing the workspace in one way or the other, either through Power BI, through an app, through Excel, through a SQL endpoint, something.
Secure embed. We have any Entra ID, basically Entra user that is connecting to and consuming the data from any source will be tracked in this, basically.
Exactly. Yes. Also,
and I think there's also a field that says where they were looking at it from. I believe, like there should be something that flags whether or not it's analyzed in Excel. I think embedded or like the portal, doesn't it?
Yeah, you have the applications.
Application, yeah, that's it.
They were here, I guess. Come on.
You gotta love it when the tooltip covers your ability to click a button.
Yeah, but this is a lot of clicking. I'm sorry, but these reports is a lot of clicking. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But there is. I saw it. Where are they?
It was in there somewhere.
I just saw the. There you go. No. Yeah, it says source application here, right there. This is by source application, so you can also see this is Power BI and web modeling, because I changed the web model, the semantic model, some time ago, a few days ago. Inside service, this is just reading data. So if you are using Excel will also show up here, of course.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, thank you.
Yes. And SharePoint and whatever you're using. So I don't have any direct query reports, so this is empty, and my event house is not being used. But look at this, I get a Q&A. Directly in the report, I get a Copilot chat function, something, so I can begin to ask questions to what's happening with my report, what's happening with my capacity, all those kind of stuff. I won't do this here because this capacity is not big enough to have Copilot. So, but know that you can use these features if you want to. But if you want more live data than the Power BI report gives you, then you also get the monitoring dashboard. This is just a real-time dashboard that you download, and then you upload that to the portal. I will just show you quite quickly how to do that, because it can be some sort of mysterious way to do it, but when you know it, it's just, oh, is it that easy? Yes, it is. So let me show you, because you need to start with creating a new real-time dashboard. New real-time dashboard, let me just say this demo 2, so it's unique. This real-time dashboard is now empty. It doesn't have anything. But in order, let's say I've already clicked the link, the fabmon, aka.bi/fabmon. When I click that, I download the JSON object for the real-time dashboard, and then I need to upload this here. So first of all, I create an empty real-time dashboard. In Manage, I can now replace this with a file, upload a JSON file. So replace with file, find your file, this is the one, open, and there you go. Oh, it doesn't work. No, it's right, because the real-time dashboard doesn't know your connection string. So also, when you are done uploading, click the parameters, click the workspace, and here in the data source, this is empty right now. So we need to configure the data source, find your cluster URI, copy it, paste it here, and when you're done, you will see something that looks, let me just discard this, it's fine. You will see something that looks like this. Now we have a real-time dashboard that reads data live when you click the refresh button.
Okay.
It refreshes your data live. It doesn't have to wait for data processing. It doesn't have to wait for anything. When you click the refresh button, you get new data.
That's nice.
Quite fast. If you want more, I could also go into editing, and then I can go into manage. Then I can go into manage auto refresh. I can enable auto refresh. The minimum time interval, I can set that, because auto refresh will consume more capacity because you are using the capacity way more. But I will just, for now, allow all refresh intervals. The default refresh rate is set to off. So every time a user opens this report, it just refreshes once and then it stays there by default. Apply. So let me go home, save, and go into viewing mode. And now I have a new button called refresh rate in the top. The refresh rate I can set to refresh every 10 seconds, every 30 seconds, every whatever. So I can now begin to put this dashboard on a monitor in my IT department or wherever you are sitting. And this will now update live with data going on and on and on and on. But I can also set it to continuous. When I first heard the continuous option, I said, oh, wow. So when a signal comes into a table, that signal is sent to real-time dashboard and then that tile is updated. But I was wrong. Continuous is just
so it's not like incremental refresh.
Every time the query are done, it refreshes again. It's just it. That's just it. So it's not a silver bullet. It just keeps on trucking all the queries, and then it keeps burning your capacity quite quickly if you don't stop it. So I'll stop it just for now. But here we get the more or less the same information from Power BI, just in a different format. And know here that the real-time dashboard are now scrollable. They can be way bigger than a screen. You can just scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll. It is unlimited. But I see more or less the same thing as I see in Power BI, just in a different format. I also have different pages. Pages are, again, semantic models. How many semantic models do I have? What's the total CPU time over time, consumption? But I don't get the pretty UI that I get from Power BI, because real-time dashboard are somewhat limited to the UI experience. But it is perhaps also best fitted, because if I need real-time data, I'm not interested in beautiful UI. I'm interested in the insights that I need now. But here I can see that, I have an overspend of my capacity. One semantic model is using 63% of my capacity. Perhaps you need to look into that, saying, okay, do we need to scale down that semantic model? Does it have too much data? Are the tables too long, too big, something? Is it not built to perform good enough? What is happening? And then I can begin to scroll down and see different metrics again about my tenant, the same thing. Sorry, about my workspace, the same thing that I can see in Power BI. Again, queries, refreshes, progresses, event house queries, table ingestions, all this kind of stuff. In help, I don't get a magic Copilot, because Copilot in Power BI Real-Time Studio, in Fabric Real-Time Studio is Real-Time Dashboard, is not a part of a visual inside the dashboard. You need to click the find your Copilot and ask questions there. But you get support, you get a link to GitHub and all this kind of stuff. But this is actually quite neat, because out of the box, I get, if I go back to the overview, out of the box, I get pretty good insights of my workspace. What's happening? Who are using what applications are being used? And do I have any semantic models I need to take care of? Do I have any notebooks that I need to take care of? Do I have any event houses that has too much data or that doesn't perform as I expect it to? All those kind of stuff. It just works out of the box. With a few clicks of a mouse, I'm ready to go. The only thing you need to remember is to create a new dashboard, go to the Manage tab, upload the JSON file, configure the connection string, and then you're good to go. You also get a default filter in real-time dashboard. You get a default filter of give me the last 15 minutes, give me the last, 1 hour, 6 hours, and whatever, and then the dashboard updates accordingly. I can change the time unit. I can also change the workspace if I have more workspaces. That would work for me. Enough about a workspace. I also promised to show you about the Fabric Capacity Metrics app. Perhaps you don't know about this. The first demo here was about our workspaces. What is happening inside the workspace? What is happening on my workspace? Perhaps I'm a workspace admin, and I will use the workspace monitoring to get this information. But let's step up a few steps on the monitoring ladder and say, now I'm the capacity admin. Perhaps I'm the Fabric admin. What's happening in Fabric? What are people using in Fabric? Are they overspending? I have a standard app called Fabric Capacity Metrics app. It's found in the apps. It is, if I go to apps, get apps, and then search for Fabric Capacity Metrics app, then you will find it. Click Get Now, install it, and configure it to connect to your tenant. You will be guided when you open it the first time, and then you have the app. The app also deploys a semantic model and a report. And I've changed the report a bit to fit my needs, because it's just a report. I can download it, I can change it, and then I'm good to go. So I've changed the report. This won't look as if you would when you just download or install the app. It will be similar, but not entirely the same thing. And now I can begin to, over my period of time, I can begin to see, do I have an overspending? Are people using too much? What are they doing? I can see it on a workspace level on the last 14 days. On a workspace level, actually on an item level, what kind of, let me zoom in a bit. What kind of capacity unit seconds is this item using of my capacity? I can also see how long has it been running in seconds, how long compute has it been consumed on my capacity unit. And the capacity unit is just, if you don't know, is just how many compute seconds do I have per second to run out of my capacity. So an F64, I have 64 cores to do calculations per second, 64 compute seconds per second. And I can now begin to analyze what's happening inside my workspace. What you will see, because for this demo, I tried to do some really, really bad stuff. On this chart, normally you will see 100% line. Normally you will see a marker saying 100%, and then you will see a line going somewhere here. And then you will see your usage being utilized, hopefully, around 80% of your capacity on a normal rate. But I did, a few days ago, I did this. I boosted my capacity to 100,000%. Just to show you that when you get boosted, you will also see that as a peak, as a spike on your chart. And this was a background process, so it has to be run because it's a background process, and all background processes by default is guaranteed to run as documented by Fabric.
That's an F9001 SKU, right?
This is an F64.
I was trying to make a joke.
Oh, sorry, I didn't get that.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. I have seen similar scaling or boosts if some of the attendees or someone on YouTube attended the FabCon in Stockholm last year. There was a real-time intelligence training day where we had 100 attendees, and Microsoft provided, was it one, or I can't remember the number of capacities, but those were F2048 capacities, the biggest one you can get. 100 people executing the same notebook at the same time. We boosted the capacity to 15,000%.
Oh, wow.
It was just, in 1 second, we got boosted. And then all interactive, background, non-billable, and all those kind of processes just died with an instance. That boost needed to be reset, so they paused the capacity. That pausing, when you pause and boosted capacity, you get a bill of the overboost. That bill was, don't hang me up on this, I think it was around $15,000 or something. That was expensive. So take care not just to pause your capacity because it's boosting. Keep it running because you will pay back over time, and then it will begin to run again, or else you will pay for it. That was a long story, but you will get insights to your capacity. What's happening on my capacity? Who's doing what on a workspace level? The reason why I changed it, so I can now filter on workspaces. What kind of workspace do I need to look into? This is the demo workspace that I just used. So now I'm only, when it updates, I will only be looking at the workspace that I used for this demo for today. You can see here I have overspent quite a bit in the last period of time, and that was by intent. I can see duration, operations, users, throttling. Am I being throttled? When am I being throttled? I should be being throttled again. I think I was throttled when I boosted. Yeah, there you go. This is the throttling you can see happening. And when that throttle is over, it's fine. I can just go ahead and work again. No problems at all. I can also see system events. But what is also perhaps important is I can see the storage. I can see what kind of storage am I being built. And here you will see a strange thing going on. When it refreshes, come on. Sorry for the delay here. Come on. There you go. These two numbers, the current storage, this is what I'm having in my Fabric capacity, in my Fabric tenant all over. And this is what I'm being built. Why are these two not the same? Well, if you read through the Fabric documentation, then you are only built for one data set once. That means that if you have a SQL database that you have a mirror feature into Fabric, you are not paying for the storage in Fabric. You're only paying for the storage in Azure. If you are mirroring your Event House data to OneLake, you're only paying for the storage in Event House, not in OneLake. So you have, and many more options. So you have different things that are being stored in Fabric that you're not built for. So here I have more or less double the data stored, but I'm only being built for the actual data in Fabric, and I'm only being built for that data once. So don't be frightened that you mirror your data from Event House to OneLake. That's quite fine. You are only built for that storage once. That's perfect. Then I can see that by Workspace and all this kind of, and I can also see it over time. Normally the how do you say this? Cumulative billable storage will always be a ladder upwards. Very, very seldom it will go down because you always add data to your data estate as a total. Perhaps you need more. There is way, way more to look into, because if you edit the report, you will see that the data to your right is quite a lot. I have a lot of tables. I have a lot of metrics going on, so I can begin to build reports that I need. And if you have a metric that you don't, or sorry, if you need a metric that you don't have here, you can just create it yourself in the semantic model directly. But trust me, you have enough measures here to get started at least. And also all the tables, all the dimensions, just go ahead and build your own reports. This is just to get started, quite easy. Do we have any more questions in the chat that we need to talk about?
A lot of conversation as we're going through this, of people chatting about like other options and exploration with it.
Oh, sure. Quite perfect.
Yeah, nothing else specifically as a question, unless you saw anything, Steve.
Okay, sure. Let me go back to the viewing part of this report. Where are we? There you go. There's also a help button, but this just gives us the way to how do I use the app, how do I use the compute and the storage, and also how do I read the data. So nothing new there. Sometimes you'll get a pop-up saying, hey, there's an update in the app from the App Store. Please update it. So if you want the new data, if you want the new version of the report, because the data set is more or less the same, don't think it has changed for like years or something. You can update the report, or you can just use your own. It's up to you what you need. So if I go back to the slides, then workspace monitoring, this is the way to go. And I personally would dive into the real-time dashboards, because then I don't have to think about, is the semantic model updated? Do I need to do something happening here? And the dashboard is, from my point of view, way easier to change and adapt and to alter to your needs. If you want to read more, when you download the slides, these are the direct link to both the Fabric workspace monitoring and how to download and enable your workspace monitoring with the Power BI and the real-time dashboards. I think we are on the hour now, 60 minutes. That was actually it for me. I'd like to say thank you to all the attendees, all the questions, and if we have any Q&A time, I will happily stay here for a few minutes more if there is questions in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So for anybody left hanging out, Jake or anybody else, if you have any questions specific to ask to Brian or any of us, feel free to drop that into the chat now with the Q, and we'll do that as a little bit of a Q&A here towards the end. Otherwise, let's pop back to here, and I'll throw you up in the middle. There, Brian. But yeah, perfect. I think the nice thing with this is you presented the toolbox, and I think a good way of helping to explain like what's available out there, and then like with any good platform like this, it's really figuring out what tools best suit your needs for the stuff that is most important to monitor for you. But you did a good job of, I think, the breadth and depth of talking about the subject with everything that's out there to monitor.
I think what you're saying there is actually one of the highlights that people need to take away here is these are only options. You don't have to use them, but they are options given to you by Microsoft. So if you need it, you have this option to enable this quite easily. It's the same with Fabric, because I get questions, do I really need to, I can't get my overview of all these items. Well, you don't have to. Use the items you need and let the rest be. It's just Microsoft gives you options, and then it's up to you to design what you need. So
I think with Fabric now, we're going to see a lot more people having a capacity license, especially because a lot of people only using Power BI probably have always used per user license. So monitoring our capacity is especially useful and especially important. So I think this is a very timely and useful thing to start doing, as I say, doing this stuff early and not waiting until you've crashed your capacity and then try and monitor. Definitely a very, very good idea. Somewhat talking from experience there, right?
Yeah, exactly. I've crashed one or two capacities in my days. So it happens. Yes, and I don't think there's a feature on that, but I also get people asking, hey, can we bill the capacity usage by Workspace? There is not a built-in functionality to do that, but if you use the Fabric Capacity Metrics app, you can actually distribute your cost in percentages based on your capacity and the capacity usage by Workspace, and then perhaps based on that calculation, you can create a report and then distribute an internal invoice to your teams if you need so.
Exactly.
A lot of very cool features.
I've got
even just seeing things like heat maps. Right.
Thanks, Amy.
Just to thank you as well from Amy. She just wanted to mention that the session was great. Definitely be a useful resource to look back on. I know NJ was on earlier, had to drop, but he'll be watching the video later. So I think this has been quite informative, and just by the conversationalists that I've seen in the chat, people really started getting a lot of ideas percolating in their heads watching this.
Perfect. And that was my main goal, to give people ideas and inspire them to get started. So.
Exactly. You're not telling them what to do. You're just giving them you're showing them the art of possible from which they can like start to design their own canvas of like what's important to monitor.
Exactly. Yes.
Very cool. Any closing thoughts or remarks as we start to wrap up then? I saw a couple of links that I dropped there in terms of activating the monitoring workspace, but any other key takeaways as some closing remarks?
I think that better get started sooner than later on your monitoring, both on the tenant level with the Capacity Metrics app and also on the Workspace level, to understand the usage pattern for the organization. Perhaps you won't need it right now, but the history of data is highly valuable when people begin to ask what's happening. So just enable it and begin to collect the data, and then just let it rest there and then use it later on.
Exactly. It's to a degree, it's almost like future proofing a little bit. It's if it can be monitored today, you might not necessarily use it immediately, but the data is now available down the road to start doing further analytics on if you need to, as long as it's not costing you too much for storage or compute or anything.
Exactly.
Yep. And with Fabric, especially, storage is pennies on the dollar compared to the actual cost of compute, which is reading it. So just the cold to warm storage of just parking it somewhere is not that expensive if it's not actually being used yet.
No, exactly.
Cool.
And in the beginning, in the very, very preview, it was actually free of charge. But I just saw, was it last week or this week, that they announced charging for workspace monitoring. So
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's one of those you'd so the same with like the Fabric trial capacities. You know, it's offered for free for a little bit to get people to explore it, and then at that point they can turn it off or continue to use it.
Yeah, and the pricing for workspace monitoring is, I think it's like 1.5 capacity units or something. So you won't even see it on your capacity. So it's quite fun.
it's exactly, it's a drop in the pond.
Exactly.
Cool. No, Brian, this has been fantastic. Steve, any closing comments or remarks from you?
No, yeah, really cool. I think, you know, a lot of new insights there that we've not had previously. So being able to kind of be data driven, I think is going to really, really help. Actually see when things are happening, even just your usage heat maps, as I was saying, like know when to optimize stuff, and very, very helpful. Excited for the way forward. It's been a really great demo. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Exactly.
And thank you for having me here. I would happily come back at a later stage. So.
Yeah, well, welcome to have you back on at some point in the future, and hopefully, so will you be at the MVP Summit in a few weeks, or just FabCon?
I'll be there in person.
Nice. Well, yeah, then we can all grab a beer while you're out here, because Steve's coming as well, so we'll be in the same city.
Sounds like a plan.
Excellent. Then yeah, I'll see you next month, and otherwise, have a good rest of your Thursday, and looking forward to getting you back on again in the future.
Thank you, and you too.
Excellent. All right. Cheers, everyone.
Bye.